Welcome to Module 1, Foundations of Leadership and Mindset. Most people get promoted into leadership because they're really good at doing work. You delivered. You were reliable. You knew stuff. But then the moment you become a leader, the game changes. And most of us try to keep winning it the old way. We work longer hours, jump in and fix everything ourselves, staying deep in the details, trying to be the smartest person in the room. That approach doesn't scale, and it isn't leadership. As a leader, your value is no longer primarily about what you personally deliver. It's about what you enable others to deliver. Your job is to create the conditions for other people to perform. This module has 3 objectives. First, to make the shift from individual contributor to leader, so you can see exactly which old habits are quietly costing you and which new ones to build in their place. Second, to help you put your leadership philosophy on paper, a clear written statement on how you intend to lead, what your team can expect from you, and what you expect from them. And third, to give you a simple, repeatable practice for staying aligned with the philosophy week after week. Because writing it once isn't the same as living it. You'll work with 3 practical tools to do this. The leader versus IC role map to make the shift visible, the personal leadership charter to put your philosophy on the page, and the weekly leadership reflection prompts to keep your behavior aligned with the leader you say you want to be. Each lesson includes a 10-minute break where you'll pause the recording, open the relevant template, and do the work. The work happens in those breaks. Reading or watching is not the same as doing, and I want to stress this will be an extremely practical experience to embed the habits. By the end of this module, you'll have done 4 things. You'll have named the IC habits you're going to dial down and the leadership behaviours you're going to lean into. You'll have a 1-page leadership charter you can share with your team. You'll have made specific commitments to building a culture of both safety and accountability. And you'll have completed your first weekly leadership reflection, the one that, if you keep it up, will compound into the leader you're trying to become. Let's start with the core shift, from individual contributor to leader. Lesson 1, from individual contributor to leader. Let's talk about what actually changes when you move from individual contributor to leader. As an individual contributor, your success is measured by what you personally deliver, the quality, the speed, the volume of your output. You win by doing. As a leader, your success is measured by what the team delivers, the outcomes they achieve, the culture they create, the capability they build. You win by enabling others to win. If you try to lead purely by doing more yourself, 3 things happen. First, you become a bottleneck. Everything has to go through you, so the team can't move faster than you can personally handle. Second, your team becomes dependent on you instead of growing. They learn to wait for you to fix things rather than solving problems themselves. And third, you burn out. And along the way, you teach the team that constant overwork is normal. Let's get specific about what actually needs to change. Open the leader versus IC role map in your toolkit. You'll see a simple 2-column comparison. Individual contributor on the left and leader on the right. Let me walk you through a few key rows. The primary measure of success. As an IC, did I complete my tasks? Did I deliver work on time? Conversely, as a leader, did my team achieve the outcomes? Are they set up to succeed? In time spent, as an IC, mostly you're doing specialist work, the thing you're good at, Conversely, as a leader, setting direction, coaching, aligning stakeholders, removing roadblocks for others. Problem-solving style, as an IC, I fix it myself. I'm the expert. Conversely, as a leader, I help others fix it. I build capability. I ask, what do you think we should do? Communication focus. As an IC, what I'm working on, my progress, my deliverables. Conversely, as a leader, what we're working on, the team's priorities, how we're tracking as a group. This isn't about making a moral judgment. Being a strong individual contributor is valuable, but the game you're playing has changed. The role map asks you to be honest with yourself about two things. First, what are the old habits you need to dial down or stop? For example, jumping in to fix every issue yourself, saying yes to every request, always being the smartest person in the room, keeping yourself as the go-to expert because it makes you feel needed. Second, what are the new leadership behaviours you need to lean into? For example, asking more questions before giving answers, delegating with clarity and letting go, spending more time on one-on-ones and coaching, making decisions with incomplete information. So here's the takeaway from this lesson. You have to stop winning the old way before you can start winning the new one. And the first step is just naming, honestly, where you're still operating like an individual contributor. That's the work for this break. Now, pause the recording, open the toolkit, and complete the table. At a minimum, fill out the 5 core rows we just walked through. Then, in the bottom section, write down 2 old habits you're going to dial down and 2 leadership behaviours you're going to lean into. Be honest, not aspirational. Aspirational lists don't change behaviour. Take 10 minutes, resume the recording when you're done. In the next lesson, we'll go deeper. We'll define your personal leadership charter, a clear written expression of how you intend to lead. See you there. Lesson 2, defining your personal leadership charter. Now that you've named the shift, let's define how you want to lead. Great leaders are clear, not just about what they want their team to do, but about how they themselves intend to show up. They have a leadership philosophy, even if it's not written down. The personal leadership charter is how you make that philosophy explicit. It's a 1-page document that answers 4 questions. Why do I lead? What can people expect from me? What do I expect from them? And what are my non-negotiables? Now, you might be thinking, this feels formal. Do I really need to write it down? Yes, because when you write it down, 3 things happen. First, you get clearer. The act of writing forces you to think what you actually believe, not what sounds good. Second, you can share it. When you're explicit about how you intend to lead, your team knows what to expect, and you create accountability for yourself. And third, you can come back to it when things get hard. Leadership is messy. Having a written charter gives you something to anchor to. Open the personal leadership charter. Let's walk through each section so you know what we're aiming to do before you write. Section 1. My leadership purpose. Why do I lead? What's the point of me being in a leadership role? This isn't corporate mission. It's personal. It's yours. Here are some examples. I lead to build a team that does meaningful work, grows together, and delivers outstanding results. Or, I lead to create clarity and momentum so good people can do their best work and feel proud of it. Or, I lead because I believe teams are capable of more than any individual. and I want to unlock that. Keep it honest and keep it your own words. Section 2. What my team can expect from me. 5 to 7 statements. These are commitments you're making. Some examples. You can expect me to be clear about priorities and expectations. You can expect me to give you timely, honest feedback, not surprises once a year. You can expect me to listen and be open to challenge. You can expect me to own my mistakes and protect the team when things go wrong. These commitments will show up in how you run one-on-ones, how you give feedback, how you handle conflict. So be thoughtful here. Don't write something you can't live with. Section 3. What I expect from my team. Some examples. I expect you to take ownership of your commitments. I expect you to raise issues early, not when it's too late to act. I expect you to treat colleagues and customers with respect, even under pressure. I expect you to speak up if something doesn't make sense. These connect directly to later modules, setting expectations and role clarity, culture values, and the standards we accept. Section 4. How I make decisions and set direction. A short description, for example. I seek input from those close to the work, but I will make a decision and be accountable for it. I aim to explain the why behind decisions, not just the what. I'm comfortable making decisions with incomplete information when we need to move fast. Section 5. How I handle mistakes and conflict. This one matters. People watch how you respond when things go wrong. Some examples again to help you. We talk about issues directly, not through gossip or back channels. Mistakes are for learning. We focus on what happened and how to fix it, not blame. And if I have an issue with you, I'll speak to you, not about you. These statements set the tone for psychological safety and accountability on your team. We'll come back to them in the next lesson. Section 6. My non-negotiables. The lines you won't cross. Some examples. We don't compromise integrity for short-term results. We don't tolerate disrespectful behaviour. And we don't hide bad news. 3 to 5 is enough. Don't make this a laundry list. Section 7. My development edge as a leader. Be honest about how and where you want to grow. Some examples. I'm working on delegating more and not jumping in to fix everything. I'm working on giving feedback early and more directly. I'm working on being comfortable with silence and not filling every gap in conversation. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being self-aware and committed to growth. So here's the takeaway. A leadership philosophy you can't articulate isn't really a philosophy. It's just an instinct. Writing it down is what turns instinct into something your team can rely on. Now, time to do it. Pause the recording. Open Toolkit 2, your personal leadership charter, and draft a first version of all 7 sections. Don't try to make it perfect. 2 rules. Use your own words. If a sentence sounds like it came from a leadership book, rewrite it. And don't write anything you wouldn't be comfortable saying out loud to your team. Take 10 minutes, resume the recording when you're done. In the next lesson, we'll connect your charter to 3 foundational concepts that sit underneath everything you'll do as a leader: ownership, accountability, and psychological safety. See you in Lesson 3. Lesson 3, ownership, accountability, and psychological safety. You now have a draft charter. Let's look at 3 concepts that sit underneath everything else you'll do as a leader: ownership, accountability, and psychological safety. These 3 are the bedrock of high-performing teams. As a leader, you set the tone for all 3. Let's start with ownership. Ownership means you take responsibility for outcomes, not just activities. As a leader, that means you own the performance of your team. You own the clarity of expectations, and you own how quickly issues are surfaced and addressed. This doesn't mean you're responsible for doing everything, but you are responsible for making sure it gets done well. Here's what ownership looks like in practice. When something goes wrong, an owner says, "That's on me. Here's what we're going to do differently." When something's unclear, an owner says, "I need to make this clearer for the team." When there's a gap, an owner says, "I'll figure out how to close it." Not, "That's not my job." Accountability. Accountability means people are held to clear standards and follow through on commitments. But here's what accountability is not. It is not blame. Blame asks, "Who can I fault?" Accountability asks, "What did we commit to? What happened? And what will we do about it?" Accountability is future focused. It's about learning and improving, not punishment. High accountability teams have clear expectations, regular check-ins, and consistent consequences. When someone says they'll do something, it gets done. And if it doesn't, that's addressed quickly and directly. Some leaders worry that holding people accountable will damage trust or make people feel micromanaged. The opposite is true. Low accountability damages trust, and more than high accountability does. Because when standards are inconsistent, your high performers get frustrated. They watch people not following through, and they wonder why they're working so hard. Done well, accountability builds trust, which brings us to the third concept, psychological safety. Psychological safety means people feel safe to speak up and ask questions. They admit mistakes and take responsibility for risk without fear of humiliation or disproportionate punishment. Here's where leaders sometimes get confused. They think psychological safety means being nice all the time, avoiding tough conversations, or lowering standards. It doesn't. Psychological safety is not about comfort. It's about creating an environment where people can be honest. High-performing teams have both safety and accountability. High psychological safety, people speak openly. They can raise concerns. They can say, "I don't know," or "I made a mistake." High accountability, standards are clear. People follow through and performance matters. High safety and low accountability get you a comfortable team that doesn't deliver. High accountability, low safety, it gets you a high stress, fear-based culture where people hide problems. What you want is both. So how do you build psychological safety as a leader? Well, through 4 behaviors. First, model vulnerability. Share your own mistakes. Say, "I got this wrong. Here's what I learned." Second, we reward people for raising bad news early. Thank them explicitly when they flag a risk or admit a problem. Third, ask questions instead of jumping to answers. When someone brings you a problem, ask, "What do you think we should do?" instead of immediately solving it for them. And fourth, we be consistent in how we respond to mistakes. If people can't predict whether you'll be calm or angry, they'll play it safe. They'll hide things. Now, think back to your personal leadership charter, specifically section 5 on how I handle mistakes and conflict. Those 2 sections are where the culture you build with your team actively lives. Vague language there means vague culture. Specific commitments there give your team and you something to hold yourself to. So here's the takeaway. The culture you get is the culture you model, not the one you announce. And the charter you drafted in the last lesson is where you make that modeling explicit. Take time to make it specific. Let's pause the recording. open your personal leadership charter, go to section 5, how I handle mistakes and conflict, and add 2 specific behaviors you will commit to in order to build both safety and accountability. Some examples. When something goes wrong, I will focus first on understanding what happened, not on who to blame. I will share my own mistakes and what I learned from them at least once a month. And I will explicitly thank people for raising bad news early. Then go to section 7, my development edge. Add 1 specific area related to safety or accountability you're committing to grow over the next 6 to 12 months. Write the behaviors, not the intention. I will beats I want to. Take 10 minutes and resume the recording when you're done. In the final lesson, we'll introduce the weekly leadership reflection prompts, the practice that will keep you honest about whether you're actually doing the things you just wrote down. See you in lesson 4. Lesson 4, building a weekly reflection habit. You've named the shift. You've drafted the charter. You've made specific behavioural commitments. Now we close the loop, because here's the truth about leadership development. Leadership is not something you get perfect on day one. It's a craft you develop by paying attention to your own behaviour and its impact, week after week, year after year. Without intention, you don't get better. You just get older. The weekly leadership reflection prompts and how you build the attention into your week, 10 to 15 minutes, once a week. That's it. Open the weekly leadership reflection prompts in your toolkit. You'll see 5 sections. Let me walk you through what each one is for so you know how to use them, not just answer them. Section A, quick weekly check. A short tick list, 5 behaviours that, if you do them most weeks, will compound into the leader you're trying to become. Did you have meaningful one-on-ones with your key people? Did you give at least 1 piece of reinforcing feedback? Did you give at least 1 piece of course-correcting feedback? Did you clarify priorities? Did you make any time to think about the medium term, not just the urgent? It takes 30 seconds. The point isn't to score yourself. The point is to notice patterns over time. If 3 weeks in a row you didn't give any course-correcting feedback, that's information. There's also a single open question at the bottom of section A. What did I intend to do as a leader this week that I didn't do? And why? Don't skip this one. The honest answer is usually the most useful thing in the whole reflection. Section B, leadership in action. Here you pick 1 or 2 questions about how you actually showed up. Where did I behave like the leader I want to be? Where did I slip back into the individual contributor mode? Which moment this week best reflects my leadership at its best, and which at its worst? This is where your charter starts working. You're not asking abstractly whether you led well. You're asking whether you live the commitments in section 2 of your charter. Section C, clarity, safety, accountability. Pick 1 or 2. Where did I create clarity this week, and from whom? Where did I avoid a difficult conversation? How did I respond when something went wrong? And what did this signal about our culture? These connect directly back to lesson 3. The behaviours you committed to in your charter live or die in this section. Section D, people and relationships. Leadership is fundamentally about people. So once a week, ask, who did I invest time in? Who needs more from me right now? Did I actively listen more than I talked in at least one important conversation? And did I recognize someone's effort or impact? If you keep doing these reflections and the same name keeps showing up under needs more from me, that's not coincidence. That's a signal. Section E, learning and adjustments. 3 questions you answer every week, no exceptions. What did I learn about myself as a leader this week? What is one thing I will do differently next week? And what is one thing I will continue because it's working? These three are the engine. The other sections are diagnostic. These three are what turn the reflection into change. Here's the thing about a weekly reflection. It only works if you actually do it. So 3 practical points before you start. 1, pick a specific time, Friday afternoon, Sunday evening, first thing Monday, whatever fits the rhythm of your week. Then put it in your calendar as a reoccurring block. If it's not in your calendar, it won't happen. 2, don't try to answer every question. The toolkit gives you 15 plus prompts. The point is to choose 2 or 3 from each section that matter most this week. Sustainable beats thorough. 3, write it down. Notebook, doc, app, doesn't matter, but write it. Reflection in your head is just rumination. Reflection on the page is information you can come back to. So here's the takeaway. This lesson and from the whole module. The leader you become is the leader you practice being once a week without exception. Time for your first one. Pause the recording. Open Toolkit 3, Weekly Leadership Reflection Prompts. Do your first weekly reflection for the week you've just had. Tick the boxes in section A and answer the open question. Choose 1 question each from sections B, C, and D and answer them honestly. And answer all 3 questions in section E. Then, before you close the document, open your calendar and block 15 minutes, reoccurring weekly leadership reflection. Pick a time you'll actually keep. Take 10 minutes, resume the recording when you're done. That's module 1. You've done 4 things that most leaders never do explicitly. You've named your IC habits you're going to dial down and the leadership behaviors you're leaning into. You have a 1-page charter that articulates how you intend to lead. You've made specific commitments to building both safety and accountability on your team. And you've started a weekly reflection practice that, if you keep it, will compound into real change. None of this is one and done. Come back to your role map in 3 months. Refine your charter as you learn. Do the reflection every week. The work happens in the practice, not in the watching. Reduce friction, schedule, and execute. In Module 2, Self-Leadership, Time, Energy, Focus, we'll build on these foundations and look at the next layer down, how you spend your week, where your energy actually goes, and how to design your time around the leader you've just defined. See you there.